Good day, brothers and sisters. And today is your day because you turn into Alex Sass Show with Glenn Herring here at the Glenn Zone. As per usual request, I am requesting you press all the buttons because it's important for many different reasons, especially the gratitude one. And we're grateful to you, and you are grateful to us for providing you with comedy. Because today is the comedy, and you need to discern everything today is matter to be laughed at. Because if you take it seriously, you go crazy, you'll go scared, and you'll be depressed. Don't be depressed. Use your discernment. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure even why you're tuning in into our show, because according to FDA, we're not the proper source of information. Oh, don't take my word for it. Let's just watch that.
Are you prepared? The internet is going down later this week. It's going to be crazy. Find out more below.
The internet is
going down later this week.
It's going to be crazy.
The real truth the government refuses to tell you. Previous account banned for sharing the truth. Wait a minute. This is misinformation. You may be spreading misinformation unintentionally. Confirm the credibility of a source before contributing to the conversation. To see how FDA is addressing misinformation, check out our Rumor Control webpage.
Glenn, you spreading misinformation here at the Alex Sass Show?
Yeah, well, no. If you watch the mainstream media, you're going to be misinformed. And, you know, who would listen to the FDA, Federal Drug and Administration? Okay? Food and Drug Administration together? I don't know, man. That's a bad mix.
It's a bad mix. Well, I always thought about how do you put all those three together? It is a controlled substance, food. And now you understand they're adding all those things to the food. And if you're still in denial, right, that you're just getting a pure source, like you got a carrot grown in your backyard and you just pull it out. The carrot that you buy in the store has a lot more elements in it than just the packing of the plastic bag, right? Glenn, we're not here to spread fear, but we are concerned about something that's happening, right? Timothy McVeigh, remember him? He used what, 1,000 pounds of fertilizer to bring down the federal, according to the
federal building in Oklahoma. Many years ago. Do you remember watching, this guy in court and look at the eyes on him? His brain was completely erased, champ. He didn't know where he was or what he did. He didn't even know who himself was. He just where am I? What's going on? It was blank.
MK Ultra.
Something weird went on again.
I remember the conspiracy theories that building that contained some documents or some kind of other evidence, and then they used it to propel some agendas forward. Now, stay away, according to this news, stay away from crowds, sporting events, big cities, especially pre-election time, because they lost 60,000 pounds of that material that Timothy McVeigh allegedly used to bring down that Oklahoma federal building.
Yeah, that's 30 tons of ammonia nitrate, which is used for fertilizer, but it's very flammable, and you could make rudimentary but very powerful bombs with that.
Yeah, let's just watch it's not an accident. Look.
Train from Wyoming was loaded with more than 60,000 pounds of an explosive chemical, and 2 weeks later, it arrived in California empty. A mysterious disappearance of 30 tons of ammonium nitrate, a chemical often used as fertilizer, but is also a key component in explosives that has previously been used in several high-profile and devastating bombings. Union Pacific is the rail company that was transporting the chemical. According to their investigation, they don't believe foul play is involved. A Federal Railroad Administration representative said they believe one of the train car's gates was not properly closed, leading to the chemical leaking through the rail car along the 1,000-mile track. Dyno Nobel, the explosives company responsible for shipping the ammonium nitrate, said the rail car was sealed when it left, and the seals were still intact upon arrival. But the bottom gate on the rail car may have developed a leak.
Oh, man. Did you ever see that show? What was that show? Breaking Bad.
No.
That's just out of Breaking Bad. They stole like a few barrels, I think. They were using, I don't know what chemical they used to make crystal meth. I think they were making crystal meth there. So there was some kind of controlled substance that they had to steal, and they had to steal like a high-grade chemical thing. And they stopped the train via railroad tracks. Like they put a truck on and while the truck was sort of like stuck on the railroad, they climbed in the back of the train and they drained a couple of barrels of the chemical, and they sealed it back up. That's what it sounds like to me.
Sad state of affairs when the media actually comes out with something so stupid, and yet the majority of people will just believe, or will just go over their head, like nothing to worry about here.
Oh, but it took 2 weeks. Like there was a 2 weeks window for them to lose it. It's impossible to trace it at this point.
I just looked at the major shareholders of Union Pacific. One is Vanguard, and number 2 is Blackrock. So, yeah.
Did they send it to Ukraine? Or Ukraine coming here? No, that's a for real, man. Okay. Brothers and sisters, stay away from the big cities, sporting events, crowded places, planes, trains, and all that. I don't know. I'm not here to spread fear, but it is very suspicious. I'm also not here to tell you that, that thing that they tried during the trucker events when they blocked people's bank accounts with ease and, cut off people access to their money. And a whole thing with the digital ID, the social score, it's coming to town near you. And if you don't think so, then you're still asleep. Wake up.
It won't happen under Poilievre's leadership. Of course, Trudeau, that's what he's pushing all the time, because we pay him to work for the global elites to inflict their wealth extraction from Canada and also their controlling of the populace. We were complacent in what happened with the Trudeau government during the scamdemic and the lockdowns and everything. I was very surprised at how quickly Canadians folded under a little bit of pressure like that. You wouldn't have that in many places in the world, even like let's say states of Texas or Florida. No, you wouldn't have that there. But over here, no, government tells you to jump, and the population said how high, but not everybody. Okay, and so when they were protesting in Ottawa, the capital, it was really against Trudeau's overreach and his authoritarian dictatorship type style of governance, which is not really a type of government that we would want here in Canada, obviously. But, people started unifying and then asking questions about that afterwards. So I think that was peak power for Trudeau. Ever since then, he's been on a big downslide.
Well, that's a good point about Canadians being duped into different things via fear. But how many people actually now aware of the digital Canadian dollar? And they say, we're just testing the water, we're researching. When they tell you this, and they already made videos about that, and they put out a whole bunch of surveys, and they're collecting data, supposedly real life data, they already have made their mind up, and they're already trying to implement it. It's not rocket science. Every time they say, we're going to look into it if we're going to use it or not. No, that means they already made a plan to use it. Let's watch this. It's just a really short video.
How Canadians pay for everyday things is changing. Some are using less cash in favor of other payment methods. To keep up with the changing ways that people pay, the Bank of Canada is exploring a digital Canadian dollar, also known as a central bank digital currency. Simply put, this would be a digital version of cash, but it wouldn't replace cash. It would have the same dollar value, and it would be accessible to anyone and everyone. You could use this digital Canadian dollar to buy everyday things, just like you use cash or a bank card, but it would be different. Unlike cash, you wouldn't need to carry multiple bills or change.
Are we promoting CBDCs right now by doing this?
And online purchases. Similar
Central
to banknotes,
bank.
it could possibly still be used when the internet is not available.
Oh yeah,
Just
right.
like the cash in your wallet, it wouldn't earn interest. But it would be secure and private.
Oh yeah, secure and private, and
secure,
the government will not have access to your digital wallet,
or another
and
device.
you know you have 100%.
At this
What if the
point,
battery
at Bank
dies
of
on your
Canada,
digital
we're still
device?
studying the possibility of issuing a digital Canadian dollar and how it might work.
Yeah, this is Glenn. This is kind of scary. This is China.
Yeah, plus there's it's been proven a lot of places there's cybercrime with this digital currency. So and then there's online hacking going on. So and you know, let's face it, Canada has one of the older demographics in the world, and a lot of these older people, they don't really use cell phones. They're not into that game yet, and I'm probably never going to use it because they said, "Oh, I'm old enough." So then, how would they be able to do their central bank CBDC online transactions or everyday transactions outside of cash? You know, I don't know what it looks the same thing. Like most people don't use cash now; they use a credit card and they use Interac. So it is like a digital currency just through the regular banks.
Good point. How's it different, right? So they say it's different because the cash that you have in the bank, let's say you have it in savings account, it's shit. But let's say you have it in a savings account, at least it's acquiring some interest, possibly, right?
Yeah, very, very little.
But possibly there's some kind of you have this way is just literally a digital wallet, and it's not your Bitcoin. So Bitcoin also can gain value over time. This doesn't. It corresponds completely to the value of the dollar in the moment, right? So what's the point of this? And I think you bring up a good point. The older generations will not adhere to that for a variety of reasons. So it's a gradual thing, and they already start to implement reverse ATMs in the places like New York City. You know what the reverse ATM is?
No.
There's a lot of places like in countries like New Zealand that went cashless, like grocery stores, restaurants, convenience stores. What does it mean? Like you use a debit card. So if you don't have a debit card, you go to reverse ATM, you deposit your $100, and they'll spit out the $100 debit card that you can use in the store. Do you know who Caroline? Is it Rogers? Yeah, Caroline
She's
Rogers.
The deputy number 2 in charge of the central bank in Canada.
Yeah, senior deputy governor Caroline. She's pushing this thing hard. She's the spokesperson for this. Let's watch her for a minute.
Here at the Bank of Canada, we're exploring the possibility of issuing a digital version of cash. Not to replace cash, but to ensure Canadians always have access to a safe, stable, and official payment option in an increasingly digital world. You may be thinking, I don't need a digital Canadian dollar right now, and you'd be right. But Canadians may need one in the future.
Hold on, she just said
They may need one in the future if all the banks go down and you only have the central bank left, which is a privately owned institution, by the way. They're the ones who create the money supply and through debt, and they're the ones who create the interest rates, the ups and downs. So it's not a free market economy. All that is controlled by central bank. Do you really want to give up your last bastions of freedom to a central bank that most people believe that the central bank belongs, that's part of the Canadian government? It's separate from the Canadian government. Okay, it's not our tax dollars. They just issue currency, and then we have to pay it back with interest to them.
All right, let's keep watching her.
So the bank has to be ready if and when Parliament makes that decision.
When she says if, then the if part is the extra part, is it?
If and when.
Yeah.
Part of being ready is hearing from you. Your input will help us make choices about the design of our digital dollar.
Does it really matter? Does your voice really matter? Or is it the globalist elite voice?
That's right. It's them talking, and she's regurgitating what they said.
Ensuring it's convenient, easy to use, and meets your needs. So please head over to our website and fill in our survey.
Meets their needs.
And no, don't fill in the survey.
No.
Brothers and sisters, ignore it altogether. It's not gonna serve any purpose because they already made their mind up about that.
They make it look so it's going to be so nice and it's going to be easier and it's going to facilitate make life transactions for you easier. And no, be wary of that. First of all, digital currencies came out in existence as a way of decentralization. All the digital currencies, I don't know, there's like 5,000 or 10,000 of them now, but they're, let's say, the top 10. They're decentralized. That's what people like in that. So it can't be controlled by a central bank or by a government entity.
But they're not saying that's a Bitcoin. Like what you're referring to as a digital currency is a Bitcoin, right? This is not a Bitcoin. This is something different. This is the way for them to remove cash. This is an electronic version of cash issued by government. That's what it is.
The cash has been being eroded in the mindset of people anyways. Most people, you know, they'll even just flash their phone and it'll have a code on it and they'll pay that'll be used as a transaction. But hey, let's say if you have 100,000 so-called dollars in the bank and you go to the bank and you say, you know what, I don't trust this bank. I'm going to start sleeping on my money, shall we say, like they used to do, you know? And so you go to the bank and say, okay, I want to withdraw 20,000 of my 100. Oh, you're going to be jumping through hoops. You're going to have to give them like 3 or 5 days notice, and just for $20,000.
You can't even 20. My friend couldn't withdraw 5 the other day from the bank here in Canada. I forgot which bank it was.
When the banks, like you've been doing a lot of business with them and they know you, then they'll make it a little bit easier for you to try and keep you as a good customer. Obviously, you know you've established a business relationship with them. But if you're just you don't do too much interaction with the bank and you don't borrow money from them and pay it back and all that, well. Yeah, it could be very difficult, and they want to know everything what you're doing as if it's their business. It's funny. You can put the money in the bank. There's no problem. Now take it out, and there's a problem.
Well, some people want to know your business specifically, and the reason why they want to know your business is because you are useful to them, because they can use it against you somehow. Epstein did not kill himself, brothers and sisters. He was murdered because he knew too much. And he was suicided, right? We always, the God and Savior Bill Gates, with his medical advice in the last few years, he came out really strong. But we also discovered that he was compromised by Epstein. We always talk about on this show how all those elites and people of influence, the businessmen, people of influence, like Bill Gates, were compromised by Epstein via sex, right? Here's a story. Let's listen to this.
Made blackjack. Maybe you like bridge. Like billionaire Bill Gates. He cannot get enough of bridge. But it's Bill's love of bridge that almost cost him billions. You see,
Warren
it was during a
Buffett, too.
bridge tournament where Mr. Bill Gates met this woman.
2 years ago, I said everyone that I'm going to meet this guy.
She's Russian.
Believe me. Last year, I played against him at the same table.
Clearly.
At the National Bridge Tournament in Washington, D.C. I didn't beat him, but I tried to kick him with my leg.
And I had
Okay,
sex
so
with
that's
him.
Mila Antonova, Russian
It's Mila.
bridge player, an alleged former lover of
But
Bill
he don't
Gates.
know.
And a few years later, when Mila needed some funding to start something up, Bill Gates introduced her to his friends, including Jeffrey Epstein. And it didn't take long for Epstein to connect the dots on Gates and Mila and realize the two of them were having an affair. He threatened to expose the affair unless Gates gave him what he wanted. And that's what we call blackmail, ladies and gentlemen. Classic Epstein. It's how he operated for decades. It's again another piece of evidence that proves he was an intelligence operative. He gathered up intel on powerful figures, a lot of it involving women, use it to blackmail them for cash.
Mossad, CIA, they say he was KGB or whatever. KGB doesn't exist. FSB, whatever the internal Russian services now. But this is how it's happened in the world. People get compromised. Trudeau was compromised by that other girl. And was Trudeau on Epstein Island a few times?
I don't know. That thing gets around. Probably.
Speaking of Trudeau getting around, Did you see that he went into he went to Japan, right? He talked because he's a fearless leader and he needs to be part of this globalist elite and to communicate the agenda to the masses and then bring back the good news like 15-minute cities and vaccine passports and all this other stuff. But he had an interaction with the Italian Prime Minister, Glenn.
Yeah, Giorgia Meloni. Apparently, the cameras were on, and he said to her that Canada is concerned with your government's
position on
positions
LGBTQ rights
against that whole special community there. And he's talking on behalf of Canadians. I said, really? With everything going on in the world, that's a big concern for you there, sweetheart?
Well, that's his power move. That's his place. It's like, this is like everybody's talking about, like, okay, let's talk about Ukraine, let's talk about economy, let's talk about oil, let's talk about Russia. And then and Trudeau's like, hold up, there's something I can talk about.
This guy's got a lot of power moves. Remember with his Mr. Dress Up outfit there in India? I mean,
Well, even here he did I don't have the video for this, but he did the handshake with spreading his legs, right?
Yeah, that was the South Korean leader.
That was the South Korean leader. Yeah, that's crazy. So he's trying to fit in. But isn't it cultural appropriation, brothers and sisters? Let me know.
Yeah, when he was on stage with the G20, the big meeting, all the top dogs together, and he's there with his rainbow socks showing off. I said, really? This is what Canadians find important in the world with the geopolitics, the price of energy, wars, disease, everything. This guy's up there with, rainbow-colored socks, and that's an issue for him. Not Canadians. That's an issue for him, okay?
Well, that's how he got compromised, I believe. But he said when television cameras were rolling, he's like, okay, I'm going to have my moment. And he said, Canada is concerned about some of the positions Italy is taking on terms of LGBT rights.
Yeah.
And said he was looking forward to discussing the issue with her.
Apparently, Miss Meloni, she's like a right-winger over there. What they call her here is called a right-winger over there, but she's more of a conservative. And she gave him a look, and if looks could kill, Canada would be liberated right now. Because, she should have said, can we talk about it in the back room? And I think she could take him.
Yeah, well, she said that Trudeau had been a bit rash in his comments, but had probably come to realize after talking with her, you're right, she probably strong-armed him. And that was written about her in the media bore little resemblance to reality, and that he had been the victim of fake news. Well, look at him. He's spreading the fake news. FDA was right. That video that we played in the beginning of the episode, they were right about Trudeau. And Meloni and Trudeau exchanged views on the importance of protecting and defending human rights, including the rights of LGBTQ people. According to a statement from Trudeau office released on Friday, Meloni responded that her government is following court decision and is not deviating from the previous administration. Oh, that's a circus.
Yeah, well, these are the elite class around the world, but every class has their clown, and unfortunately, he's the class clown of the elites, and that's what Canadians have to look up to, supposedly. And by the way, only 40% of Canadians have a dislike point of view of Mr. Trudeau right now, and 80% of the Liberal voters would still vote for him. I mean, it's like Socrates says, you lose faith in democracy when you have a conversation with the average voter. And you know how we talk with a lot of people in the gym about, government intervention. We're at the gym, we're talking to people about this, about what did Trudeau do, this and that. Most people don't know. I mean, I don't know how much sway now the mainstream media has over the way people think anymore, because people just don't, I don't know, a lot of people just haven't got a clue about anything. It's like indifferent. It's unimportant.
Well, most people don't watch, to be fair, most people don't watch media anymore. So they watch things like YouTubes and TikToks.
TikTok. By the way, TikTok just got banned in the state of Montana.
Is it Montana or Iowa?
No, Montana. Well, maybe Iowa is next. But there's a lot of states that are waking up in America, and they're fighting back against this neo-liberalist extreme wokeism that's going on.
Well, you know who started that whole craziness? What's his name? Trudeau wasn't the first one. Oh, I guess he was the first Canadian that went crazy like this. But Obama is the true first transgender. And
Champ, I remember the first time Trudeau, after he won and he met Obama, okay, and the first at the White House when they first met each other, they were going for the tongue. Each other was going for a big kiss. You know, I got a call the next day from my grandmother who was in her mid-80s, and she says that was a weird moment. She picked it up herself. Like I knew there's something wrong there, and then my grandmother, at that time, like 84, 85 years old, she called me and she said, he's a little bit fruity. Just like that.
What was that comedian that called him out and then she shortly died?
I think she used to be on the Tonight Show. Eh?
Yeah, hold on, what was her name?
Yeah, she had passed away, and then her daughter came out, said
But then there was a video of her, with her ex-agent, and she looked, that's...
Can we talk here? Let's talk. Can we talk? She used to say that all the time on the Tonight Show.
What was her name? Oh man, doesn't matter.
Anyways, go on with the video, and it'll come to you there when Mr. Obama talks about somebody very close to him in his life.
And that's an old one. Everybody heard that one.
Yeah, and he did it several times.
Yeah.
Michael and I also want to acknowledge.
Yeah, that laugh is contagious. Yeah, it's not a Freudian slip. Like, there's no way he calls his wife Michael if it's Michelle. There's no way you can make that mistake. And that's Michael. What's Michelle's male name?
Family name? I don't know.
Michael, I forgot.
They have all the name. They have the pictures of Michael. I don't know. Is that a transgender, or what would you call that?
I don't know what to call that.
Is it still a man who just dresses as a woman or tries to look like a woman?
Well, I don't know what it is, but we're going to do an episode on this regarding
that. We'll call it a thingamajig.
Thingamajig, yeah.
Okay, but once they have a special complete operation.
But he didn't. There's videos of him still having the thing.
Well, maybe it's gone now, so we'll call it a thingamajigless.
No, he was on Ellen show, or she was on Ellen show dancing, and you can see the thing jiggling.
Oh yeah, on the Ellen DeGenerate show.
DeGenerate show, yeah. Oh, what was her name? That comedian. Okay, it's gonna drive me crazy. I will remember. So speaking of crazy, this is how. But it's a distraction of society, right? It's Roman civilization and all that. All over again.
Paganism, brother. Paganism, yeah. Okay? It always happens at the fall of an empire. Neoliberalism, anything goes, this and that. Let's focus the negative attention on each other. Meanwhile, Rome comes down, Rome meaning the Anglo-American Empire, as the rest of the world is creating new ties and forging new agreements that's going to leave us really on our heels, okay?
Well, I'm very proud of myself. Boy wins qualifying slot in a girls' track in championships in California.
You narcissist, you'll do anything to win, okay? You'll take drugs in a natural sport, and you'll compete against girls when you're a guy who just thinks he's a girl. And, to even allow this to happen, to even allow that, even entertain the thought.
How do you allow this? How do you allow this to happen? So this is propagated throughout the culture, normalized throughout, and legitimized. That kind of insanity, that kind of behavior is legitimized. This person is crazy, and this person is gonna claim some kind of mental condition because this person's in the news again. Glenn, did you hear the news? Do you know who that is, right?
It's Brinton. He used to be Obama's right-hand man for nuclear energy.
And I don't know if it was Obama's. I think that was Biden's.
Oh, Biden. Yeah, well, it's almost like the same thing today, right?
Yeah. Brinton had been arrested in Nevada and Minnesota in similar charges. That's his third time.
They were so proud when they hired this guy. That was their first time forging into having a non-binary, I don't know, like it looks to be a little bit mentally retarded type person, actually being paid a lot of money by the government for something so important. I mean, they were worried about Trump, having the nuclear codes and maybe Putin having nuclear weapons, but that didn't faze them at all.
No. Sam Brinton was a Department of Energy. What was he? Department of Energy official in the Biden administration, serving as the deputy. What was he serving as?
Deputy Assistant Secretary for
Spent Fuel Waste Disposition.
That's nuclear.
However, Britain was terminated after revelations the 35-year-old engaged in the baggage theft at both Minneapolis and Las Vegas.
I think it's 3 times
and
now.
now it's the third time. Yeah. And now it's the third time.
He's stealing women's luggage to go through their undergarments. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe he got a little bit too close to those spent nuclear rods, and he lost his mind's a little fried. All his hair fell out. But the lipstick, it's not very convincing.
Well, they do refer to kleptomania as a real thing, like a mental condition. Although his other behavior is okay. That's not a condition.
I'd rather deal with a thief than deal with a guy who thinks he's a girl or whatever, non-binary. He likes to call himself a they, them. And he's married to another guy, apparently. So.
Oh, you know way too much information. You were really looking into it? You were researching?
Well, yeah, give the people something to really scratch their head about, maybe laugh about. But I can guarantee you, after the segment's over, it's all forgotten about. Like I dehypnotize myself one shot.
Yeah, and it's like a goldfish for the rest of the people that watching this show. They probably forget about a lot of things. Although don't forget about discernment. Another thing that came out of the White House,
just out of the blue, they fined $3 billion. It was a mishap. $3 billion. That's $3,001 million. And they can send that to Ukraine. And also Zelensky at the G7 meeting over there. Zelensky met with Trudeau, and it looks like he's twisted Trudeau's arm. Or, I don't know.
Something else?
Yeah, whatever. And it looks like Canada is all of a sudden, maybe we misappropriated and we found some money to
cocaine
send
is
over
legal
there.
in Canada, right? So he must have brought a gift.
Yeah.
But aren't we experiencing south of the border debt ceiling issues for the past few weeks?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we found $3 billion. Hooray, it's going to resolve the issue. No, let's just send it to Ukraine.
Yeah, resolve the issue for a day, But we'll just send it to Ukraine, and so we can squeeze them and make them hammer out, something so that the debt ceiling can be brought up one more time or 10 more times. I mean, it's gone up 80 times since the 1940s. I mean, you're not supposed to have a debt ceiling. Government is not supposed to work by a credit card, champ. Government is supposed to run by a business. If that was a business, they would have been bankrupt a long time ago. So this is totally unfair. This is the reason why I don't like central bank. I would never like a central bank digital currency. I would prefer a government bank. In other words, a bank by the people for the people. And that bank would have to, let's say, follow the right protocols of business to keep your country and your government, which is basically all of us, because the government works for the people. You keep them solvent. You show them that how necessary it is to balance your books.
By the way, Bakhmut has fallen, or Artyomovsk, I believe, the Russian version of that city. I don't have an article for that, but it hasn't really made the news in the big way. But Zelensky was addressed by media, maybe in Japan or wherever he was. And it's like, is it true that Bakhmut has fallen? Can you confirm? He's like, Bakhmut will never be fallen in our hearts. By the way, you know the strategic value of Bakhmut and the economical value? It's the biggest salt mine in Europe.
Salt mine.
Yeah, it's the biggest salt mine in Europe. So it was a strategic resource.
Salt's not good for you, big guy.
It's not good for you either, but it's good for something. It's good for commerce, and that's why they were. I don't know if they were fighting particularly over the salt, but that's the economic significance of that. You know what else is economic significance of that? That whole thing with implementing 15-minute cities, and let's save the environment because it's good for depopulation. Don't take my word for that. Let's just, you know this bloke, Glenn? Hold on. You know who that is?
No.
That's Van der Leyen.
Honourable members, ladies and gentlemen.
New head of the EU?
Yeah.
Indeed, if we look back, a little over 50 years ago, the Club of Rome and a group of MIT researchers published the Limits of Growth report. It mapped the interaction between population growth, the economy, and the environment. And it came 50 years ago to a drastic conclusion. Stop economic and population growth, or else our planet will not cope. And as you know, this report has sparked a long controversy, for instance, about the role of new technology in countering the climate change. But instead of prolonging these debates, I want today to concentrate on one point. And that is a point that the report got right beyond any doubt.
Okay, I'm curious. Let's go.
That is the clear message.
Let's do it.
That a growth model centered on fossil fuels is simply obsolete.
That's right. That's right, Glenn. I knew that was coming. And that's why they don't buy oil from Russia. Or do they? or gas. Well, which brings us to a next story.
You know, she was talking the Club of Rome. That's one of the globalist organizations, you know, champ. It's the same thing as the Bilderbergs.
WF.
The World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Illuminati. You know, this is all the same group, and they overlap with each other. They have, you know, one person will be a part of 3-4 of these different type of globalist organizations to try to ensure their control over the whole world. But looking what's going on now, how the world seems to be breaking apart away from the Anglo-American Empire, you would think that there really is a new world order in the making right now. Well, we're going to see how this is going to affect the world, but I can tell you now, there's going to be a lot of changes. You know, there's a lot of people who, when I talk about this, they get all nervous and, the world doesn't look good. And, you know, they have like a defeated mentality. You know, it's like I have to remind them, you know, the world is coming to an end, said the caterpillar. No, it's just beginning, said the butterfly. So, you know, it all depends on your point of view, where you are. You can look at the end. I look at the end of the old bad way and the beginning of a new way. If we're all going to be conscientious and we can ensure that the new way will thrive, and that'll be the new cycle for many, many years, decades, maybe couple hundred years.
But that's a good point. That's stay positive, glass half full. And, you know, like it's the phoenix, right? The phoenix burns away, or what I call Shiva. They burn things down for the things to grow. Even when the forest burns down, it's the nutrient for the new growth to come up. It's clearing. So fossil fuels, is that what France is doing by banning short flights?
No,
or is it just population control? They're just trying out a guess.
They're just getting the people to obey, to follow another thing. You know, we have more rights, less rights, more rules and regulations and laws than we ever had, yet we have more anarchy going on than we ever had. So obviously, when you try to put everybody, crush them into the same room, they're going to get uncomfortable and they're going to break out for their freedom.
Yeah, so the change will mostly impact travel between places like Paris, regional hubs such as Nantes, Lyon, and Bordeaux. By the way, you know the French government is to recruit 3,000 green police over climate change. So more government spending to make sure that you're not burning fossil fuels at your home, or you're not using this gas car on your farm.
Let's hope that the French citizens are still rebelling and protesting. Their real end goal, immediate term, is to get rid of Macron.
But the whole point is he's still there, and they're still implementing crazy stuff like this. Like they've been protesting for past 5 years, 6 years. I don't know how long.
Well, you know what? Maybe this will add fire to the protest, and it'll grow even more, and so that he'll eventually have to run away with his little tail between his legs.
Speaking of adding fire, Glenn.
There's this kid. He was 15 years old. He was
18.
No, but he was 15, working in the fire department. His father worked there. You know, they had a lot of ties with. So he was 15 years old, and he was volunteering, and he couldn't be hired until he turned 18. Between the ages of 18, 19, he really ensured that he would have a job for himself with a lot of a super amount of overtime. So he made a lot of money because a lot of the fires out west, he actually started himself. I mean, you know, I guess he wants to score. He says, well, I'm a fireman. How am I going to score? Well, I just create some more fires. That's all.
But is he a scapegoat?
Has been described as a great firefighter. Now he's facing 18 counts of arson.
A greater fire starter.
Struggling like any of our members with questions of why and how. What did we miss?
The charges after nearly a dozen fires were set throughout Marythorpe in April. The largest, the one that destroyed the landmark railway bridge earlier this week.
Oh, that's
pretty. The fire
pretty.
chief says the accused helped fight 4 of the other fires and was a bystander at several more. Shalm is well known around town for more than his role within the fire department. He's the son of a former mayor.
Total shock.
Oh, wow.
You know, and how do you, as a family,
So
that's
the inside game.
Deal with that. I mean, we can't prepare for that because you don't see it coming.
The devastated father says the family found out about the charges on social media. They haven't spoken with the 19-year-old yet, but are standing by him.
Wherever this ends up, Lawson will always have a place at my table. You know, I will never throw him under a bus.
As people in the small town rebuild what was destroyed, the fire chief says the integrity of his department is intact.
Our volunteers that are remaining.
Yeah, how's that? How's it an attack?
I think the old man was crying because his son actually got caught. So if you want to, you know, have a seat at the table with him, you might have to join him in prison for a little while. You know, like, I know he's a young fella. He's only 19 years old. But, you know, you caused a lot of damage, a lot of problems. I don't know what was going on in your head, kid. There's something a little squirrely there. I mean, that's in the same level as a cross-dresser to me. I don't know. It's not well.
But what if it's just the Timothy McVeigh story, you know, and like in the Fahrenheit 451, the firefighters were doing the opposite. They were burning the books. So maybe like, okay, we covered the story that a few weeks ago about female and transgender firefighters or non-binary firefighters. Like, oh, we're as good as men. Let's start a fire. And they started the fire that was pretty massive. Remember, they got out of control and they couldn't handle it. What if it's part of the same? Here, kid, go play with the matches. Maybe it is like, and people worried. Remember, like just few days ago, people saying like, "Oh, you conspiracy theorist if you think this is arson," and now it comes out it actually is an arson.
Yeah, maybe the kid wanted to be the greatest firefighter the world ever saw.
He's just a fall guy, Glenn.
No, he just needed a lot of practice. That's all. So he started his own fire so he can put them out.
That's your story, but I now it makes sense to me. He's just a fall guy because they started to get, you know, like you couldn't actually connect the fires. Like, why did the fire started here? How did it got here? And like, oh, let's find the fall guy. Him. He's 18. He'll get out of jail. We'll take care of him after. That's what it is. I'm 100% positive now.
Okay,
because a few days ago, that was a conspiracy theory about those fires being arsoned.
Yeah.
And now it actually came out.
That sounds pretty good, the way you're explaining it.
It just came to me on the limb. Like, I wasn't there before the show.
You should have been a lawyer or a prosecutor.
Prosecutor. I should have been. Or detective. I wanted to be a detective.
Yeah.
private investigator,
Send
private
you
eye.
over there, Alberta. You
Like,
can,
what was the Humphrey
PI.
Bogart's Humphrey Bogart's character, Sam, whatever? Yeah, that's. If you guys don't know who Humphrey Bogart is, watch some shows. He's the Maltese Falcon. Do you ever see Maltese Falcon?
you'd be a tall Magnum PI, and he was pretty tall already, but you would have been the real extra large.
Yeah, racist, no heightist. Well, Glenn, it's been a good show. Thank you for being here with me today at the Alex S. Show here at the Glen Zone, an amazing studio that we have here in Montreal, LaSalle, Quebec. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. We're releasing some really good pieces in the next few days. So make sure that you subscribe, click all the bells and whistles, and click likes. And please share it. Please share the show because it's, shadow ban thing on YouTube is kind of tough. Other than that, we love you. Glenn, any last messages for today?
Yeah, it's always hard to get the truth out there, so that's why we're being shadow banned, so let's the truth, the people who like the truth, put it out there for us, help us out a little bit, and then we're going to even give you much more content to spice up your day.
Perfect. See you on the next one, brothers and sisters.